Yo, what's going on, guys? Bexio back, and today we've got a video on Plug Power, a little bit different into the stock market world because it's been seeing a lot of volatility and a little bit of a dump here. So, jumping right into the price here, this is Plug's daily chart. You can see basically we had this trend line here that did act as resistance for here, and we ultimately could not get above it and had a major fall down. Right now, maybe looking at a double bottom if we go to like 2363, 2350 ish. But more importantly than that, September is just a very weak month for stocks in general. It's a historically bad month for the stock market, so it wouldn't surprise me to see, no returns or negative returns this month, or lots of volatility and things kind of seeping further downward instead of in a bullish trend. But right now, for the price, we would see maybe a double bottom. And if that happens, we could get an explosion up to trying to hit this trend line again. But like I said, September being a very bad month historically for the stock market. How likely is that? Who really knows? It's a lot more fun to focus on the long term for Plug instead of try and guess what's going to happen in the next couple weeks. The long term has a much better outlook than the short term, especially with Plug's profits being priced in for the next year or two, not what they're doing right now. But there's a little news that happened with Plug that caused a bigger downturn. And like this says, volatility in Plug Power shares is here to stay. We all can expect that. We all know Plug's going to be a very volatile company. But looking at this, obviously closing down 5.8%, and it's struggled to hold up amid the weakness in the broader market. Obviously, there's outside factors like Delta and all that stuff, as well as September being a bad month for the stock market. So a lot of things going against these more momentum stocks that is really going to be a challenge for them. And Plug falls into that category, falls into one where it's going to be tough for Plug to have a good month this month without some really good news. And some news that could have caused this downturn was obviously Plug Power shares could also be carried over from the previous day when Hyundai Motors ambitious hydrogen fuel cell plans sparked fears of rising competition. So that's something that could have caused this downturn as well. That Hyundai is jumping into this hydrogen fuel cell market. They're a big automotive company. They have the business capabilities to be able to really try and make moves in this. I still think that although other competition can come in, I think Plug is still in the best spot to produce hydrogen itself, the fuel, as well as the fuel cells, and maybe work off partnerships, which we've seen in the past here when they had a partnership earlier with SK Group and Renault, these companies, to make like hydrogen fuel cells for certain cars and everything. Plug can provide the fuel cells and hydrogen and doesn't have to worry about the vehicle itself. Whereas Hyundai could make a vehicle that runs on it, but they could even have their own fuel cells, but Plug can still be involved in that by giving them hydrogen fuel itself. So short term, something that people might be freaking out about that Hyundai's getting involved in this. But I think that it's still a net positive for everything. Like Plug still, if they develop their own car and need fuel cells, Plug can do that. If they develop their own car and fuel cells, they're going to need the fuel from somewhere. Plug can provide that, or even through infrastructure where like gas stations start to provide hydrogen as well. Plug will just deliver a hydrogen directly to a gas station like that. And this one article here kind of talking about Plug stock, saying is it overvalued, undervalued, and then we think it's an aggressive buy. And there's some other things that we're gonna look through that kind of show that it is a good buy right now, or at least from what signs are showing. But this says Plug Power's green hydrogen technology has massive tailwinds as Europe and Asia move in earnest towards a carbon neutral future. So that is a big thing too. We're seeing it in the US, but a lot in Europe and stuff are really going down this path. And Plug can do everything global. Their partnerships are in Europe, and I think France is one of them. but that's where their partnerships are starting. They can easily make things happen in Europe and Asia and provide hydrogen fuel. That's the biggest thing that I think Plug has going for, is being able to produce hydrogen itself and use that to get people the fuel itself. I think that's where they're going to be able to really explode as a business. And this point is the only negative one here, saying Plug Power has been struggling to turn a profit while also massively diluting existing shareholders in the process, which is true. They've done exactly that. But what we're looking for in the near-term future is tapering to start, which would mean it would be a lot harder to get money, borrow money, and do all that stuff to grow your business with tapering starting. So right now, debt is really cheap, really easy to get. Tapering would make that harder to get and more expensive. So what Plug has done is dilute shareholders, which sucks in the short term, but they have something like $4 or $6 billion on the balance sheet to be able to conduct and expand their business even after tapering. So whenever tapering says, I'm sure we'll see a big shock to the market and Plug will be receiving end of that shock. But in the long term, they've secured enough cash to be able to expand their business and continue going in the future and get to their profit targets that they've been raising every single time they've had an earnings report. And just looking at the analyst stuff here, obviously this is 18 analysts, and it says a moderate buy, 1 sell rating, 5 hold, 12 buys, with the average being $41.06 for a 12-month price target for Plug Power. So that's massively good. That's almost 70% upside. That would be massive. You can see the averages here. Everything on this side is still higher than the price we're at today. So the low 27, average 41, high 78. These are all 12-month price targets. All of these would be a positive return for Plug at the price it's at now. And the average 41, there's some that say buy, some that say hold, but, only one saying sell. So overall, looking very good for Plug. We look at stuff like insider trading. That is flipped very good. So you see this rally here, and you saw insiders selling into the rally, which is kind of normal to see. You think insiders would know a little bit more, and when they see the price start to explode, they might think this is a little ridiculous. Let's secure some profits. And when it goes back down and has been kind of trading sideways here for a while, we see 2 sells with 8 buys and then 18 buys with 0 sells. So right now, what that would tell us is that insiders think the price of Plug is undervalued to what they think it can be. That in the short term, who knows what that would really mean. But in the long term, kind of looking at that 12-month outlook would look more like they're looking towards the average or high in terms of the return, because they're all stockpiling in 18 buys by 13 insiders at like $26, $25, and they've been no selling. So they just think the price is extremely undervalued. And usually that's what that means. And for the news sentiment, we're kind of seeing a slowdown on articles. Not a huge deal. I don't think it really matters that much, but 5 articles compared to the average of almost 9. So it's a little under average, but it's still massively bullish over the sector average, which is going almost neutral right now. But Plug holds that bullishness for the news sentiment, so that could be good news short term to see a little rally for Plug, especially at these levels where people might think that they're getting a deal by buying the stock. Finally, we can look at the FinViz for Plug. A little interesting for these lines. I don't know what the purple or blue lines are supposed to be trying to do, if they're just trend lines or something more, but we do see basically the resistance, flipped it, bounce off this blue. So right now we'd be looking for a bounce around this blue line, which we're at right now. But looking at other stuff, institutional ownership still over 50%, which is good to see. Over 50% shows a lot of confidence from institutions getting involved. And the short flow, almost 10%, so nothing crazy on that, but there are shorts out on Plug, so maybe we see small little squeezes if the price starts to rally up. But honestly, the short float, not really enough to see it really impact the price. But guys, that's going to do it for this video. Plug Power, I'm still bullish on it in the future, at least 3 to 5 years to see, you know, where everything's going. And I think we could see a big move up in price and a lot more dominance from Plug in like 10 years, 2030-ish by the end of the decade. So long-term outlook, short-term, who knows? But as always, guys, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. See you guys in my next video.